everyone. I'm Lois with Aussie Lozzie Knit Designs, and I'm here coming to you live on Facebook to do the Knitty Gritty Roadmap to Learn to Knit. I have given this presentation before through Zoom and tried to keep it to an hour, but that was really hard to do. So I'm really excited to try to do this on Facebook Live, and hopefully it's more accessible to you that way. It's easier to join for sure, right? Because you could just do it on your phone wherever instead of entering like Zoom details and whatnot. I do want to give you guys a link real quick to the Knitty Gritty Roadmap workbook. I did email this out, and of course it is in the links for this private Facebook group, but it's always good to have it accessible everywhere, right? And I just want to point out that we are getting solar panels put on our roof right now. And so when you hear weird noises, that's solar panels being installed. Hooray! Anyway, yeah, so let me just put this link in here real quick. And there you go. All right. So I do have slides for us to look at today, and let me just go ahead and switch to those. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is your Knitty Gritty Roadmap to Learn to Knit. I am Lois, and I'm so glad that y'all are here. I do want to encourage you to get the workbook if you haven't already. It looks different than this. This was the old version. I kind of revamped it, and that link is dead, but there's a link in the Facebook group, and I just posted it in the video so that you can get that. At any time, if you want to share your thoughts, you can do that, of course, in the private Facebook group. You can send me an email, lois@aussielozzieknitdesigns.com, or you can snap a picture of it and send it to my email. Tag me on Instagram at AussieLozzieKnits, hashtag AussieLozzieKnittyGritty. If you have a question at any time, I want you to feel free to ask it. I am trying to watch out for any comments that might come up, and so feel free to ask them. But if I miss your questions, don't let that keep you from asking it. I will get back to those at the end of this session and make sure that I capture them all. And of course, we'll be meeting every afternoon at 4 p.m. Live on Facebook for the next 4 days. And so there's plenty of time for you to ask any questions that you might have. So here we go, your Knitty Gritty Roadmap to Learn to Knit. If you're not familiar with me, I want to just introduce myself to you again. My name is Lois. I am the designer and instructor for Aussie Lozzie Knit Designs. I am truly passionate about helping you learn how to knit or advance your knitting skills. And the reason I feel so passionate about this is because when I was a beginner knitter, my husband got me a little Learn to Knit kit, and it was cute, and it came with like patterns and some metal knitting needles and some yarn, and I could not understand how to knit from that. And I watched tutorial videos over and over, every tutorial video that I could find. I just did so much internet research trying to figure out how to learn to knit, and it just didn't click for me. And so I know that others may be like me, and I don't want you to get frustrated. And so here I am trying to help other people who want to learn to knit be able to learn to knit. So does this sound like you? You are super creative, you're crafty, and you can do lots of different crafts. Like maybe you paint or you draw or you're musical, whatever, but you just cannot seem to figure out how to knit. Or maybe you're really ready to learn how to knit and you've just been running around in circles trying to find like the best way to learn and the best tutorials, and you've gone to all the blogs and all the YouTube videos and all of the things, but still nothing is really speaking to you. And even worse, it seemed like there's conflicting information everywhere. Or maybe, whoops, I'm skipping ahead. It's so great to have all the online learning things and photo tutorials for you to follow along, but you just really need to have a person that you can ask a question to. And it's hard to find that. I mean, you could post in Reddit or Quora or whatever, but then you have to wait, until someone comes in and finally answers your question. And hopefully you found an answer before that. Anyway, that is why I've created this workshop, Your Knitty Gritty Roadmap to Learn to Knit, so that you can create your own plan for learning how to knit your way. And before we get into all the details, I do want to give you a preview of what's ahead. So, what we're going to talk about in this workshop over the next few days is we're going to talk about the best tools and materials for beginner knitters, and that's specifically yarn, knitting needles and yarn. So, we'll dedicate an entire day to talking about yarn because I have a lot to say about that. Then we're going to be talking about the 4 steps for knitting success so that you can apply these steps when you're learning or advancing your skills at any time. We'll also be going over the foundational knit skills and why learning them is so very important to your knitting success. I do want to invite you real quick to my Beginner Knitter Finger Flex Challenge. That is happening right now, and we just started with day 1, task 1 this morning, but you're not too late if you want to get in on that. It's really pretty fun. It's just 5 days of small challenges that you can do each day to flex your fingers and get ready. If you aren't already knitting, to get ready to learn to knit. And if you are already knitting, maybe to become more familiar with things like slip knots or taming tension and that kind of thing, it is a good time. And I'll make sure that I drop a link in the video so that you guys can join that if you're wanting to. And of course, I'll share with you my program, which is knitting basic training to learn to knit at the last day. And I do have a fast action bonus that's available to people, the new knitter survival guide. So I'll tell you how you can get that again on that last day, which is this coming Thursday. So I have a question for you guys real quick. Why are you struggling with learning how to knit? If you are, and if you are struggling, um, why aren't you knitting yet? Does it feel overwhelming? Are you frustrated? Are you unsure of what you need to do next? Well, I've been there before too. This is a picture of me in 2018. I had just been in a car accident and I was kind of laid up for a while. So my husband got me, like I said earlier, a Learn to Knit kit that had a book with patterns and some metal knitting needles and a whole bunch of different yarns for me to learn how to knit. Let me just tell you, it was a good thing that I was laid up with my knee because if I hadn't been, I probably never would have learned how to knit because I was kind of stuck and I don't like to sit around and just do nothing. I picked up my needles 100 times. I threw them on the floor, frustrated day in and day out, but because I was just bored, I would pick them up and try again and again. So it was actually the perfect time for me to learn to knit. I was totally overwhelmed. I was very frustrated. I was trying to follow the steps, but I could not figure out what I was missing. It seemed like there was some intrinsic knowledge for knitting that they assumed that you had, and I did not have it. I was missing whatever it was that I should have known. I did not know. And so it took me a really long time to figure out that this Learn to Knit kit and what it was telling me was not going to work. Eventually, I just threw it out and I created my own plan to learn to knit because I realized that all the different ways that I was seeing on YouTube or in photo tutorials or whatever, it really came down to just this. I just needed to get the yarn on my needles in a certain way. And however I got there didn't matter as long as my stitches looked correctly. And so I began really isolating what was happening on the needles and doing that in the right way so that I could knit. And whether I held the yarn with my left hand and did continental knitting, or I held it in my right hand and did throwing, it didn't matter. None of that actually matters. All that matters is that I insert my knitting needle the right way, I wrap my yarn around that needle the right way, and I get stitches on my needles. That's all that matters, guys. It doesn't matter how you get there. You will develop your own like little tricks and things like that as you become a better knitter, but just to learn, that doesn't matter. Anyway, I actually threw out all of my knitting things. This was the first thing I didn't throw away, and this was a blanket that I knit. Otherwise, though, everything that I knit while I was learning, I would knit up these little square pieces of fabric and just throw them away because I was just practicing. But in no time at all, I was able to begin knitting, and this is the first gift that I ever made. And this is a scarf, and I did intarsia, so I did a little bit of color work. This scarf has knits and pearls, and it really came out really good for a first like major project. And now, you guys, because I spent so much time focusing on my foundation knit skills, right? The knit, the purl, the knit, the purl, I'm not intimidated by knitting anything. It doesn't matter if it's cable work or color work, whatever, I will knit everything. And I love to try everything. I honestly haven't tried everything out, but I'm not afraid. I know that I would be able to master it if I just use my steps for knitting success. And because I have that confidence, then nothing is off the table for me to knit. But this story isn't about me, right? You're not here because you want to learn about my knitting journey. You want to make your own path to learn to knit. And even though your journey may sound different than mine, being a knitter is exactly what you want, and it's what I want for you too. Because knitting is therapeutic. Maybe not while you're learning, but once you do learn how to knit and you have your basics down, the actual knitting can be very meditative and relaxing. It's a great way to unwind at the end of the day. Knitting is portable. You can knit in waiting rooms, in your car, wherever and whenever you want to. I even knit while I was on a whale watching tour. This picture of me on the cruise ship. We're about to go look for whales, and I'm knitting. So forget scrolling on your phone. You can actually be making something, and that is pretty incredible. Knitting is also adaptable. And what I mean by that is you can knit as little or as much as you want. You can knit as simple or as complicated as you want. Knitting is whatever you want to make of it. And while knitting is known as slow fashion for a reason, if you commit yourself to knitting just a few rows a day, you will definitely see some progress. And so I'm going to end here today on the roadmap so you can kind of see where I'm coming from and where we're heading. I hope that you will join me tomorrow. We're going to talk actually about both knitting needles and yarn and what's best for beginners. I hope to maybe shed some light for you guys on if you've been struggling as a beginner, maybe trying out some different knitting needles and different yarn might actually help you get over that struggling phase so that you can really progress in your knitting skills. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I hope that you can all join me, and thank you for your patience with the banging on the roof and all the little noises that happen today. I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.